Hello students, welcome to EPG Padasala. I am Inanala Periyar, Assistant Professor of Criminology and Criminal Justice, Manonamaniyam Sundaranaar University, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. The module is focused on programs for school and youth at risk. So, first of all, we have to know about what do you mean by the term youth at risk. What do you think local community members mean by the term youth at risk? How would young people react to the term youth at risk? This module considers the educational needs of those young people who are identified as at risk educationally. They are usually regarded as young people whose circumstances or experiences have led to their being marginalized from a range of social structures and groups, including educational organizations. There are a range of definitions of youth at risk utilized by different youth services. Some are very broad. For example, the term at risk has entered common parlance in references to young people in recent years. In general, it is used to describe or identify young people who, based by particular difficulties and disadvantages, are thought likely to fail to achieve the development in their adolescent years that would provide a sound basis for the satisfying and fulfilling adult life. Other definitions are focused on the particular mandate of the service. For example, identifying the factors that lead to risk of offending, having high welfare needs, leaving education early, homelessness, etc. Educational definitions of youth at risk reflects current educational explanations for young people. The NSW Charter for Equity in Education and Training states all young people are entitled as a minimum to be able to complete their school education to year 12 or a vocational education equivalent. Educational definitions of youth at risk span those that include young people who leave school early, defined as before completion of year 10 or 12, or who are likely to fail to achieve defined educational outcomes. The definitions of youth at risk in the NCVER study focus on the purpose of transition from school to adult life and work. Our definition of at risk is that they are not making a successful transition from school into adult life through work and study. Few social issues get as much media attention as youth crime. Statistics Canada reported a 3% increase in crimes committed by 12 to 17-year-old between 2005 and 2006. In the last 5 years, the rate of violent crimes among young people have increased by 30%, from gangland and style killing in Vancouver to the senseless being an elderly woman in Halifax. Canadian cities are struggling with a wave of youth crime that was unimaginable couple of decades ago. According to Statistics Canada, most Canadians believe that youth crime is on the rise. 77% believe that the sentencing of young offences is too lenient. Many experts attribute the spike in youth crime to the increased number of street gangs, often the perpetrators of youth crime. Research indicates that youth seek comfort from those who welcome them and reinforce their sense of belonging. Unfortunately, some youth have no choice but to turn to street gangs in order to satisfy their need for approval, belonging, and self-worth. Street gangs are not just issues in big cities. Over the last few decades, there has been an increase in the presence of street gangs in non-metropolitan and rural communities. For example, in 1960, there were 54 cities in the United States with a gang population. In 1995, there were street gangs in approximately 800 cities and towns across the United States. There is no consequences among experts on how to reduce youth crime. Criminal involvement usually starts before the age of 15, with first-time offences declining markedly once young people reach 20 years of age. Young people who become involved in criminal activities before the age of 14 tend to the most persistent offenders with long criminal records. Reducing youth crime. It means there is little evidence that punitive sanctions such as interactions, example, time in a youth correction center, for shock incarceration, example, putting a child in jail overnight, community service hours, example, gathering garbage at the side of roads, or boot camps, for example, physically demanding residential programs, have been effective at reducing juvenile crime. In Ontario, where a zero tolerance policy was implemented more than a decade ago, there has not been a reduction in youth crime even though the rate of charging youth with criminal offences more than tripled between 1989 and 1993. It is estimated that 17% of the total money spent on youth crime in Ontario is spent on incarceration, which is estimated to cost $1 million a year for each young offender. The Honorable Hal Wooten, Queen's Counsel, former Royal Commissioner into Aboriginal deaths in custody in Australia, urged delegates at a 1994 conference on preventing youth crime to have the courage to stand by against those who believe that further dehumanization is the cure for those who have lost their way in society. According to many criminology experts, the most effective approach to reducing youth crime is to steer young people away from negative social activities before they become involved in criminal activities. This seems to be supported by Canadian rehabilitation was seen by 64% of the public as a most effective way of dealing with young offenders, not incarceration. There needs to be a balanced approach to dealing with young offenders. Some may need not be incarcerated, but many more need to be engaged in community programs that build character, increase self-esteem, and develop life skills. Social development programs that provide youth with positive peer interactions, opportunities to develop problem-solving skills, and a supportive adult help reduce the risk factors associated with the crime. Social development through organized sport. Organized sport is being used throughout the world to curb political extremism and to facilitate peace. In 2007, for example, the United Nations established a global sport fund with a $10 million donation from the country of Qatar to engage youth from different parts of the world, particularly those in conflict regions in sport. Sheikh Shuaib bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, Secretary General of the Qatar Olympic Committee, stated that the sport fund targets young people at the age when the temptation to experiment with illegal drugs is high. The main purpose is to promote sports active among young people and to prevent drug use and crime worldwide. With more than 6.2 million 15 to 24-year-olds in the world, the United Nations realized that youth sport represents one of the most dynamic mechanisms in society for transforming dangerous and violent conflict situations, because organized sport can engage youth of all races, genders and classes. Daniel Tarshey, former Secretary General of the Council of Europe, stated that 1995 the hidden face of sport is also the tens of thousands of enthusiasts who find in their football, rowing, athletics or rock climbing clubs a place for meeting and exchange, but above all, the training ground for community life. In this microcosm, people learn to take responsibility, to follow rules, to accept one another, to look for consensus, to take a democracy. Seen from the angle, sport is par excellence in ideal school for democracy. Reducing crime through organizing sport. It is unrealistic to claim that organized youth sport alone can reduce the level of young crime in society. The causes of youth crime are complex and multidimensional. Organized sport program can, however, contribute to reducing young crime by giving young people a positive identity, feelings of empowerment, and by helping young acquire leadership, teamwork and self-governance skills under adult supervision. Several studies have demonstrated that youth sport does prevalent youth crime. In Kansas City, Missouri, evening and midnight basketball programs reduce the crime rate among African American youth. According to the Kansas City Police, there was a 1/3 of 2/3 reduction in juvenile crime in areas where there was a midnight basketball program for 10 to 21-year-olds. In Alexandria, Virginia, there was a reduction in crime among young women who participated in a running program sponsored by the Road Runner Club of America. In Australia, rehabilitation programs that engaged Aboriginals young offenders in organized sport contributed significantly to reducing crime rates in Aboriginal communities. The organized sport programs that are successful at reducing youth crime appear to develop feelings of competence. Youth crime appear to develop feeling of competence, connectedness, and empowerment among youth. Sport programs dominated by unequal access. Sport programs dominated by unequal access and the absence to win at all cost often foster social problems among at-risk youth. Northern Fly in sports campus in Manitoba that focused on building teamwork, character and self-esteem among Aboriginal young offenders and potential young offenders resulted in an average 49% reduction in youth crime in the 8 communities that offered the program. A multi-sport program in Bristol, England that engaged youth at risk of offending or re-offending resulted in a 43% reduction in juvenile crime between October 1997 and January 1998 when compared to crime statistics from 12 months earlier. The benefits of organized sport for at-risk youth are maximized if programs are skills-based, team-focused and learning-rich. Organized sport programs that engage at-risk youth by empowering them and providing opportunities for positive peer mentoring will foster positive peer mentoring will foster reduction in youth crime. Young offenders in organized sport programs have demonstrated significant increases in rating in perceived competence in sport skills and increased self-esteem. Although there is limited empirical evidences of the direct causal relationship between youth sport and youth crime reduction, there are several relations as to why youth sport reduces youth crime, including that organized sport keep young people busy and out of trouble. First of all, meets a need that youth have for excitement, makes young people feel empowered. Meets a need that youth have for risk taking, increases feeling of connectedness, develops problem solving skills, foster teamwork, develops athletic abilities, increases self-esteem, develop cognitive competencies, provides positive role models and mentors, develop decision-making skills, makes youth feel special, provides employment opportunities. Organized sport can prevent youth crime by developing capable, mature and responsible youth. But few governments in the world have established policies and committed resources that support the provisions of sport opportunities for youth at risk of getting involved in criminal activities. Who are the individuals that would probably gravitate most toward organized sport if they could choose sport teams over street gangs? Policies and programs in the United Kingdom. Prior to the 1997 general election in Britain, the Labour Party stated that sport can be crucial to the social and personal development of young people. By participating in sporting activities, they can learn a differentiate between good and bad behavior. The Labour Party declared that if they were elected, they would develop sporting opportunities for young people to help them foster a sense of their value to society and to help tackle problems of youth crime. After the Labour Party was elected in 1997, the British government started supporting sport programs for at-risk youth. The organizing committee for the London 2012 Olympic Games is currently promoting the importance of sport for at-risk youth. Many great athletes from the United Kingdom have spoken publicly about how sport probably helped keep them away from criminal activities. Sebastian Coe, a gold medalist in the 1500 meters at the 1980 and 1984 Olympic Games, wants sport to be organized is an effective mechanism for empowering and educating youth to tackle the problems they face and for building a special skills they need to succeed. London 2012 is promoting a fundamental and lasting role of sport in changing the lives of young people throughout the world. There have been several successful programs in England to engage at-risk youth in sport. Bristol City Council, for example, has been using sport as a central policy mechanism in its efforts to overcome exclusion and to regenerate some of the prosperous areas of the city. Its efforts have resulted in lower youth crime rates. In West Yorkshire, a sport counselling scheme aimed at reducing re-offending rates encourages young people on probation to make constructive use of their leisure time through sport. The researchers were able to conclude that the project was successful in helping to halt long-term recidivism among young offenders including some with lengthy histories of serious crimes. Those who participated in 8th to 12th weeks of sports counseling and programming experienced significant improvement in their self-esteem and perceptions of their own fitness. Need for non-traditional participants. Need for non-traditional partnerships. Community sport networks involving local sport groups and non-traditional stakeholders such as the police, social service agencies and local business seems to be the most effective at reducing youth crime. The sport programs in England that have been successful at reducing youth crime involve a variety of non-traditional stakeholders groups, including the local police, health authorities, municipal social services departments, housing agencies, residents associations and local businesses. Although many of the non-traditional partnership documented by Sport England have been established at a community level, there are opportunities to create a Canada-wide movement for sport for at-risk youth in partnership with non-traditional, provisional or territorial and national groups. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, for example, has identified supporting youth as one of its 5 strategic priorities, along with fighting organized crime, battling terrorism, supporting Aboriginal communities and safeguarding Canada's economic integrity. A key objective of their RCMP is crime prevention through social development. Investing in sport for at-risk youth. There is an immediate need for Canadians to invest in sport for at-risk youth. While youth crime rates are rising, the number of Canadian youth participating in sport is rapidly declining. Between 1992 and 2005, for example, the sport participation rate among 11 to 14 years old boys dropped from 17% to 62%, while participation rates among 11 to 14 years old girls dropped from 54% to 48%. The trend could be reversed if even a fraction of the government money spent to punitive approaches to declining the youth crime was directed at engaging all youths in organized sports. And investment into sport for at-risk youth would significantly reduce incarceration cost, minimize personal harm to youth and adults, and maximize social developments among young people. Many coaches have compelling stories about youth who have chosen sport over juvenile crime, but ancestral evidence is no longer enough. Federal, provincial or territorial and municipal governments need empirical evidences to establish policies and commit programming resources. Philanthropics and corporate executives need empirical evidences to be assured that major financial gifts to support organization will contribute as much to the health and well-being of Canadians, and donations to hospitals, universities and health charities. According to the True Support Foundation, more than 90% of Canadians believe that sport can and should make a positive contribution to the social development of youth, but fewer than 20% believe that sport is living up to its potential. One way to demonstrate that sport in Canada is living up to its potential is for sport organization to engage at-risk youth and to gather data in partnership with local police, which demonstrate that youth who are engaged in organized sport are not participating in criminal activities. To do this, methodological needs to be established that measure both variables of engagements and crime reduction. Participation barriers such as cost and transportation need to be removed so programs are accessible by all youth regardless of gender, socio-economic status, ethnicity, cultural background or ability. And sport programs need to focus on building character and self-esteem. Organized sport programs for youth that develop social skills, monitoring opportunities with adult role models, cognitive skills, and increasing feelings of self-confidence and self-esteem provide an antidote to antisocial behavior. With Vancouver 2010 on the horizon, there could not be a better time for Canada to show the world that organized young sport does indeed reduce youth crime. Thank you for watching EPG Padasala.